Alright, we've covered Trish and Virgil's Versus series appearances, so now we've got the best for last. Dante, the most iconic son of Sparta. Dante is the lead protagonist of the Devil May Cry series, which debuted on the PlayStation 2 in 2001. Devil May Cry 1 is generally cited as one of the biggest pioneers of the stylish action subgenre of games, featuring over-the-top action, arcade-esque score sensibilities, and a whole lot of weapons with a whole lot of movesets. Devil May Cry 1 in particular has a darker, more gothic atmosphere compared to its sequels, and that has a lot to do with its origins during development as the Resident Evil game, famously spinning off from Resident Evil 4 development. Dante, along with his brother Virgil, makes up the Sons of Sparta, half-demon, half-human offspring of the legendary Dark Knight Sparta. Where Virgil's path through life saw him seek out power by any means necessary, including fully embracing his demonic heritage, Dante had a more lackadaisical approach to life, making use of his natural talents, but also more fully embracing his human heritage as well. And pizza. The man really loves a good pizza. Dante was a character expressly designed to be cool and stylish above all. One of the main inspirations behind his design was noted to be Cobra from Space Adventure Cobra. It's perhaps no surprise that Dante's design, no matter the incarnation, always incorporates some kind of red into his outfit as a result. As a child, Dante witnessed the death of his mother Eva after demons invaded their home, separating him from Virgil, who he had believed also died. As a young adult, he took up the alias of Tony Redgrave and became a mercenary. He ends up reuniting with Virgil at some point, who tells him of his plans to open up a portal to the demon realm, which Dante opposes. This leads to the events of the first canonical game in the series, Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening. Over the course of the game, he works against Virgil, who's also working with a mysterious man named Arkham, who at first seems to share Virgil's vision, but turns out to have even more sinister goals. He also occasionally encounters a woman he later nicknames Lady, who in reality is Mary, Arkham's daughter, seeking revenge for him using her mother as a sacrifice to gain more demonic power. A decade after the events of the game, and going separate ways with Virgil, who resigned to stay in the demon realm, Dante runs his own business, the eponymous Devil May Cry. He's visited by a mysterious woman who attacks him, before revealing herself to look identical to Dante's mother, asking for his help to defeat Mundus, a demon king that opposed his father, and also ordered the attack that killed his mother. Dante, having chased down leads for years on Mundus, agrees to go with her to Malay Island, setting off the events of the first Devil May Cry game. The series also received an anime adaptation titled Devil May Cry: The Animated Series that's largely considered canonical to the games and takes place after Devil May Cry 1. Devil May Cry 2 takes place afterwards, and well, the less we talk about that game, the better. Some neat character designs in it though. Devil May Cry 4 starts with a new protagonist, Nero, who at a religious gathering for the Order of the Sword witnesses Dante jump through the window and assassinate the Order's leader Sanctus before engaging Dante himself twice over the course of the game. Dante's absolutely above Nero's pay grade here, but notices his Devilbringer arm and the way Virgil's old Yamato katana reacted to him and decided to keep an eye on him. There's even a neat blink and you'll miss it Easter egg in the game's intro, where you can very briefly spot Dante watching Nero from afar. Everything comes to a head in Devil May Cry 5, where he, Nero, Trish, Lady, and new ally V face down the mysterious Urizen, unraveling a bunch of family drama in the process. Dante usually gets a pretty wide arsenal of attacks and weapons to utilize in any given Devil May Cry game, allowing players to creatively express their playstyle in whatever Devil May Cry game they happen to be playing. Being part of such an intricately designed action game series makes Dante a fantastic choice for a fighting game, and given the massive popularity of the Devil May Cry games, Dante was arguably the most obvious newcomer choice people had when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was announced. He was one of the earliest characters teased for the game, being revealed alongside Deadpool, Marvel's own red-clad mercenary that does never shut up. They have a pretty cool standoff in the episode 1 trailer for the game, and I swear I must have watched that part like 1,000 times at this point. Dante's appearance in the Versus games is specifically modeled after his appearance in Devil May Cry 3, often considered to be one of the best games in its genre. All of Dante's moves in the Versus series are sourced from this game, and this is notable in that Dante has the single largest moveset of any character in the Versus series. Including command normals, special moves, and hyper combos, most characters have around 12 to 15 moves overall. Dante alone has 22 distinct special moves, not even counting his expansive list of command normals, hyper combos, and special moves that get unlocked thanks to his install super. Dante's voice actor in both of his Marvel vs. Capcom appearances is Ruben Langdon, who also voiced him in Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5. Langdon's also well known for voicing another popular Capcom character that typically wears red, Ken Masters in Street Fighter, voicing him in Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Street Fighter 5, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Langdon also notably performed the motion capture for Dante in the DMC games he voiced him in, and Capcom would go on to use the same studio which Langdon himself owns for subsequent Capcom games over the following years. Also of note is his Japanese voice actor in Marvel 3, whom I've mentioned a few times way earlier in this video series, Toshiyuki Morikawa. This man has been in the voice acting game for years. He's had a bunch of roles in both anime and video games, and interestingly, is the only voice actor, at least as far as I know, to have provided the voice for Capcom characters, SNK characters, Tatsunoko characters, and even the Japanese dubs for a few Marvel cartoons. Most notably, he was the voice of Ryu in Street Fighter Alpha 3, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 in both the Capcom vs. SNK games, the voice actor of Tekken Man Blade in both the anime and his Tatsunoko vs. Capcom appearance, Hon Fu and Bob in all of their Fatal Fury appearances, and regularly plays Cyclops in Japanese dubs of X-Men animated shows. I can't reasonably go down the list of stuff he's been a part of, or this video is going to be longer than it's already looking to be. Because Dante's moveset is so large, and we'll be talking about not just the attacks, but the weapons he uses for them and their origins, this is going to be pretty lengthy. So sit back, grab a snack, and let's dive into Dante's appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Dante's theme in Marvel 3 is a remix of Devils Never Cry, the credits and overall main theme of Devil May Cry 3. It's a good remix, all things considered. It had to be a bit abridged so that it could properly loop as opposed to the original composition, which comes in at just over 5 minutes, but it works. While the remix here was composed by Marvel 3's main composer Hideyuki Fukasawa, it bears mentioning that the original DMC track was composed by Tetsuya Shibata, who was also one of 2 composers to work on Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Dante is one of Marvel 3's more versatile characters. He can function decently as a point, battery, or anchor character, and is arguably the game's best support character overall. He has good range on a lot of his normals. Between his jam session assist, 2 supers great for DHCs, and his overall synergy with the cast, he plays the perfect support role. And he's a jack of all trades. He has a move for every situation thanks to that expansive move list. That said, his damage scaling is pretty harsh, only Strider has worse than him there. His normals, despite their range, are pretty slow, and his light starters in particular have awful hit stun that makes them hard to confirm in the combos. Dante had some of the more significant changes between the initial vanilla release of Marvel 3 and Ultimate, so I'll touch on them as we move ahead. On top of Dante having the most special moves in the game, he also has the largest list of command normals, having almost as many as some characters have entire movesets. Before we get into those though, I want to talk about some other stuff regarding Dante's movement and normals. Dante has an air dash and double jump in Marvel 3. These are taken from his Skystar and Air Hike abilities in DMC 3 respectively. Air Hike is an ability Dante can buy for each weapon that allows for a double jump and is usable in any style, while Skystar is an air dash used exclusively in Dante's Trickster style. In Devil May Cry 3, Dante has 4 main combat styles to choose from, with 2 additional ones that can be unlocked. In most versions of the game, Dante can only switch between them between missions or at divinity statues, but in the Nintendo Switch port of the game, Dante gained the ability to swap between all styles and weapons at will during gameplay, a feature backported from Devil May Cry 4 and 5, though unofficial mods have existed for this in 3 in the years prior. The base 4 styles in DMC 3 are Trickster, a mobility-focused style, Swordmaster, placing emphasis on Dante's melee weapons, Gunslinger, bolstering the moveset of Dante's firearms, and Royal Guard, a parry-focused defensive style. All 4 styles are realized within Dante and Marvel 3 to varying degrees. His moves and ability options are from Trickster, Swordmaster and Gunslinger are implemented into his moveset, while Dante's blocking animation has him taking up his Royal Guard parry stance. We will cover which move comes from what style as we go along. I do want to note that there is a glitch in the vanilla release of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 appropriately named after his unlockable style in Devil May Cry 3, Quicksilver, as it freezes time for everyone but Dante. I'll let the clip do the talking here.
Assist?
Nah, so he said he got something. Let me see.
I don't know, there's a very ominous feeling with this match right now. Oh, there it is! There it is! Oh my god! There you go! He's done. The game is over. Welcome to the world of Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
What's going on? What is this?
This is godlike.
What is this? What is this?
The game is broken. Look.
I also want to highlight Dante's grounded light, medium, and heavy string in Marvel 3.
In your face.
It's a dead ringer for a Rebellion combo 1 in Devil May Cry 3, Dante's basic 3-hit combo with the sword of the same name. Rebellion is Dante's trademark sword, first appearing as his main weapon in Devil May Cry 2, and making an appearance in every subsequent mainline game. Rebellion was a keepsake given to Dante by his father. After his first encounter with Virgil in Devil May Cry 3 ends with Virgil stabbing him with the sword, it makes contact with Dante's blood and awakens his inner demonic powers. More on that later. Dante's launcher in this game is High Time from the DMC games as well. High Time's been a launcher attack in the series since the beginning, and all 3 DMC characters in Marvel 3 have it represented in their moveset. Dante and Trish have it as their standard launcher, while Virgil has it as a command normal. Another trademark DMC move is reflected in his moveset as well, Helmbreaker, done with the special button in the air.
In your face.
This one has also been in the series since DMC 1. Do be aware that it's a lot slower and overall less of an immediate threat than Virgil's variation. Stinger is Dante's first command normal, done with forward and heavy attack.
In your face. In your face.
This is an advancing stab attack taken directly from the DMC games again, being just as ubiquitous as the previous moves. Next is Cold Shower, done with a down forwards motion and heavy attack.
Yes. In your face. Yes.
Dante shoots downwards, hitting the opponent off the ground. Dante can follow this up with other attacks, giving Dante the appreciated utility of being able to do solo OTG combos, a trait not many other characters share. In DMC 3, Dante's guns will focus on any enemy in his vicinity, and if they happen to be on the ground, he'll aim down at them. That said, this animation particularly reminds me of the first part of his Wild Stomp ability in DMC 3. Dante's twin pistols are custom handguns designed to imbue bullets with Dante's demonic power, named Ebony and Ivory. They appear in every mainline DMC game and were fashioned by gunsmith Noah Goldstein back when Dante was early on in his Merc career, operating under his Tony Redgrave alias. Noah was the adoptive grandmother of Nico, who would go on to take up the same passion, eventually becoming the go-to weapon technician for Nero in DMC 5. Rainstorm is an aerial command normal, done by holding down and mashing heavy attack in the air.
Great.
This notably stops his aerial momentum and has him hang in place in the air for a bit, making it a decent tool for stalling for time and running away. This was a move exclusive to Gunslinger style starting in Devil May Cry 3. Scat Shot is done by pressing heavy, then immediately mashing it.
In your face.
This is essentially Dante's normal gunshots from the DMC games, where it has its own dedicated button. You might notice the bright colored glyph that briefly appears when the move is initiated. This is a shout out to DMC 3's crazy combos, which were extensions to certain attacks that could be initiated by performing an additional input, usually mashing it, after the initial one and were denoted by a similar visual effect. The vast majority of Dante's moves in Marvel 3 can be optionally branched out into other moves, which are all denoted on activation with the same glyph animation. Weasel Shot is done by holding back and mashing heavy. This one is actually original to Marvel 3.
In your face! In your face! Cool!
Pressing heavy after using Dante's launcher initiates Clay Pigeon.
Great! In your face! Great!
Heavy can be mashed to score more hits. You know, it's kind of just part of the series' DNA at this point, but there was a time when this mechanic was the absolute coolest thing ever when the first game released in 2001. Seriously, I can remember just about every review noting how cool it was that you could juggle enemies with your guns. Funnily enough, the stylish combat the series would go on to be known for was actually partially inspired by another game entirely, Capcom's own Onimusha. According to DMC1 director, the legendary Hideki Kamiya, he happened to pop in on the Onimusha team during that game's development, and witnessed a glitch that would send enemies flying high into the air after being hit. He brought that anecdote back to the programmer responsible for implementing Dante's actions in DMC1, and asked if it would be possible to work that into the also in development Devil May Cry, and the rest was history. Next up is Prop Shredder, done by pressing the special button after Scat Shot, Cold Shower, or Clay Pigeon.
Great! In your face!
This move allows Dante to launch the opponent after using any of the aforementioned moves and combo from there, allowing for solo relaunches. In Devil May Cry 3, this was a move he could do with Rebellion and was exclusive to Swordmaster style. Stinger level 2 is done by pressing forward and special during either Scat Shot, Clay Pigeon, or Cold Shower.
Great!
This is a slightly slower version of Stinger with more pushback that wall bounces. In DMC 3, some of Dante's moves like Stinger and Jetstream, more in the latter in a bit, could be upgraded to level 2 variants that were stronger. Million Stab is done by mashing heavy attack during Stinger or Stinger level 2.
In your face! Great! Sweet!
In DMC 3, this was initiated in pretty much the exact same way, mashing attack after a Stinger. Multi-Lock is Dante's first special move, done with a quarter circle forward and light attack.
Gotcha!
Dante sends out an orb that lingers for a split second before homing in on the opponent. This can be charged to fire multiple homing projectiles, and Dante can walk, jump, and air dash while charging this as well, just like in DMC 3. Multi-Lock is performed using Artemis, one of Dante's devil arms in DMC 3. Devil arms are essentially the demonic weapons Dante uses throughout the Devil May Cry series, usually either forged by demons or created as a manifestation of their powers upon being defeated, which is almost always the case in the series. We'll be touching on all of the ones Dante uses in Marvel 3 as we go. Next up is Acid Rain, done by tapping light attack during Multi-Lock startup.
In my sight! Cool! In my sight! Yes!
This sends some orbs into the sky before raining down several bright colored projectiles. Though it's slow, it's most commonly used as a mix-up tool on incoming opponents to set up basic left-right cross-ups. This is a move that can be jump cancelled from Prop Shredder as well by inputting it as a Tiger Knee motion. We'll talk about some other applications in a bit. This one is directly lifted from the crazy combo of the same name in DMC 3. This one can only be used in Gunslinger style. It should be noted that a significant balance change made to Dante between the game's initial release and Ultimate is that the input for Dante's special move extensions were changed. In Ultimate, you simply double tap the attack button used to initiate the move. In Vanilla Marvel 3, you had to perform the entire motion again, so Acid Rain for example would be performed with a double quarter circle forward motion and light attack. While this lowers the execution barrier for him somewhat, it's offset by his terrible hit stun deterioration in his combos, specifically in Ultimate. In Vanilla Marvel 3, despite the slightly more finicky execution for these extensions, I find that they're not as subject to hit stun deterioration. There's a Dante bread and butter combo that I can reliably pull off in Vanilla Marvel 3 just fine, but can only get it half the time in Ultimate, because there's a 50-50 chance the opponent would just follow the Prop Shredder because the timing is way tighter. Crystal is done with a quarter circle forward and medium attack.
Yes!
Dante uses his weapon to conjure a multi-hitting series of ice pillars. This one works about the same as it does in DMC 3. Cerberus is a weapon obtained from the boss of the same name early on in the game. After Dante beats him, he acknowledges his power, grants him his weapon, and allows him to proceed into Temini Gru, the tower that makes up the primary setting of the game. In DMC3, Crystal could only be performed in Swordmaster style. Million Carats is done by pressing medium attack during Crystal's startup.
First attack.
This one can hit OTG, can be comboed off of, and can even be used as an anti-air in a pinch. This is taken from the crazy combo of the same name in DMC3. Quarter circle forward and heavy attack gives you Hysteric.
Gotcha now. Good.
Dante whips out the Kalina Ann and fires a bunch of missiles from it that fan out semi-randomly. This is taken from the move of the same name in Devil May Cry 3, where it was exclusive to Dante's gunslinger style. Kalina Ann is the trademark weapon of Lady, who debuted in Devil May Cry 3 and appeared in every subsequent game. It's a rocket launcher with a bayonet attached to it that can be extended out to act as a grappling hook. Dante can use the weapon after beating her in DMC3, and can also gain access to two of them in DMC5. Lady herself uses the weapon in her playable appearance in DMC4 Special Edition. Speaking of that bayonet, that's the focus of the next move, Grapple.
Here you go.
This extends across the screen, and if the enemy was caught, they're pulled over to Dante, allowing for a free combo. This maneuver was exclusive to Dante's gunslinger style in DMC3. Next up is Drive, done with the quarter circle forward and the special button.
In your face.
Dante charges up energy and rebellion for a sec before letting loose a wave of energy from the sword. This has decent projectile durability, though it's a little too slow to be used to win zoning wars. It is plus on block though. This is a standard move Dante could use in any style with Rebellion once he purchases the move in DMC3. Next up is Twister, done with a Dragon Punch motion and light attack. This creates a large fire tornado that envelopes Dante's side of the screen that also hits OTG. This was a move Dante could do when using the Agni and Rudra weapon in Swordmaster style in DMC3. Agni and Rudra are a set of talkative dual fire and wind elemental demonic swords that Dante finds guarding a door in DMC3. After beating them, Dante takes them along with him under the condition that they stay quiet.
No talking. Good.
It has a follow-up attack, Tempest, as well.
Sweet.
This is done by pressing light attack once more after the initial Twister motion. It was the crazy combo extension for Twister in DMC3. Volcano is done with a Dragon Punch motion and medium attack.
First attack.
This is a massive grounded punch that hits OTG and can launch the opponent a bit. This was a move Dante could use in DMC3 with the Beowulf weapon in Swordmaster style. Beowulf is a set of demonic gauntlets and greaves that Dante and Virgil can acquire in DMC3. In DMC3's story, Virgil actually acquires the weapon before Dante and uses it in his second boss fight against him, as well as part of his moveset in nearly every playable appearance Virgil's had. The follow-up to this attack is Beehive, a series of lightning-fast kicks followed by a final one slamming the enemy into the ground.
Sweet.
While the name itself is original to Marvel 3, this is essentially Beowulf's second combo string from DMC3. Jam Session is done with a Dragon Punch motion and heavy attack.
Great.
Dante slides forward on the ground, cloaked in a tall pillar of purple electric energy. The assist version is the better known and more useful variation of this attack, but it does have some niche uses. It combos into itself in level 2 and 3 X Factor, making for easy touch of death combos for a character. In DMC3, Jam Session was the crazy combo extension for Nevin combo 2. Nevin is a boss with the power of lightning in DMC3 and frequently conjures up bats in combat. She and Morrigan would probably get along well, and that's likely not coincidence. Early design sketches for her refer to her as Morrigan, and both characters are likely influenced by and named after the same Irish myth. Her Devil Arm manifests as a purple electric guitar that can also summon bats as well as electricity. Reverb Shock is done with a quarter circle back and light attack.
Cool.
This has a very fast startup, and though it's negative on block, it could be cancelled into another move to mitigate this. This is another move that comes as part of the standard Nevin moveset in DMC3. Revolver is done with a quarter circle back and medium attack. Dante spins around several times with Cerberus out before landing for one final hit. This one's a part of Cerberus' standard moveset in DMC3. Jetstream is done with a quarter circle back and heavy attack.
Cool.
Dante rushes forward and performs a multi-hit combo of Agni and Rudra. Dante gets this one as a part of their standard moveset in DMC3. All three of the above moves can be cancelled into the next one up, Fireworks, done by pressing heavy during the aforementioned 3 moves.
Awesome.
The shotgun is the first firearm Dante can wield alongside Ebony and Ivory and can be obtained in Mission 3 of DMC3. Fireworks itself can be used exclusively in Dante's gunslinger style. Pressing special during Reverb Shock, Revolver, or Jetstream initiates Crazy Dance.
Cool. Dude.
This one has a very strict cancel window compared to Dante's other moves, so it'll take some practice. This one is a combination of Dante's Dance Macabre and its crazy combo extension, Crazy Dance. Next up is probably the most important move in Dante's kit, Bold Move, done by pressing any attack button and special at the same time. At first, its benefits aren't immediately apparent. This appears to be a simple command hop for Dante. However, this single move is the glue that holds Dante's grounded combo structure together and allows for all of the flashy extended combos you usually see Dante players go for. Bold Move's utility comes from allowing Dante to cancel moves that shouldn't normally be cancelled, either into a special move, a hyper combo, or even into a block. This is referred to as bold cancelling. This comes about because of the first few frames of the maneuver, which we'll refer to as pre-jump frames from here on out. Take Dante's Stinger for example. Normally, he wouldn't be able to cancel this into anything but Bold Move itself. But during the pre-jump frames of Bold Move, you have a small window to quickly cancel those pre-jump frames into something else, effectively making Stinger cancelable as part of a true combo. This is also good for when applying pressure as Dante as well. Because those pre-jump frames can also be cancelled into a block, it can make something safe for him that wouldn't be otherwise. Here's an example of a combo incorporating both a bold cancel and a regular bold move.
Combo.
Get back! Get back!
Keep it in style.
Yahoo!
Jackpot.
Mighty.
You done warming up yet?
This is one of the most important parts of Dante's kit, and if you're serious about learning him even a little bit, learning bold cancels is crucial. Next up is Killer B, done with a quarter circle forward motion and light attack in the air.
Air combo.
In your face!
This one is a dive kick Dante does with Beowulf that causes a ground bounce. This is a standard part of Beowulf's kit in DMC3. The extension for this one is the Hammer, done by pressing light attack again.
Get back! Get back!
First attack.
This one also ground bounces. Of particular note is the vanilla Marvel 3 incarnation of this move. For whatever reason, this attack had full invulnerability for its duration, making it one of the silliest moves to contend with in the game. It still has some invulnerability in Ultimate, but it's a lot more honest now. Dante could use this move in the air with Beowulf and Swordmaster style in DMC3. Next up is Airplay, done with a quarter circle forward and medium attack in the air.
Cool.
This one can be charged, and notably keeps Dante hovering in the air for the move's charging and active duration, making it a solid tool for stalling and running away. This is Nevin's standard aerial move in DMC3. Quarter circle forward and heavy attack is Sky Dance.
Air combo. Dude.
This is a multi-hit attack that brings the opponent back down to the ground bouncing them. Notably, this will ground bounce regardless of whether or not you've already used one in a combo. If the opponent is at a specific height when getting hit with this, Dante can combo freely before the ground bounce is initiated, which interestingly resets Dante's ground bounce completely, allowing him to do elaborate combos with the additional ground bounces this allows for. Sky Dance is a Swordmaster exclusive aerial move for Agni and Rudra in DMC3. Air Trick is done by pressing down, down, and then the special button. Dante teleports behind and a bit above the opponent. Like most teleports, this can be used for basic mix-ups, but it also has utility in combos involving Prop Shredder. Because Prop Shredder can be super jump cancelled, doing a down, down, up, and special button motion will cancel in the air trick after Prop Shredder's final hit, allowing Dante to meet the opponent in the air faster than if he had just super jumped. Air Trick, as hinted by the name, is a teleport maneuver Dante gets in Trickster style in DMC3. Dante's first hyper combo is $1 million, done with the quarter circle forward motion and 2 attacks.
Fantastic. Keeping it stylish. Yahoo!
Jackpot.
Fantastic.
This is Dante's go-to hyper combo for inexpensive damage, and the fact that it has fast full screen startup, a long duration, and locks down the opponent also gives it fantastic utility in team and delayed hyper combos. The spin out before the final hit is also notable. This is a common point for players to DHC into other characters, even for intentional whiffs so that they can combo immediately after, and even Dante himself can capitalize with a well-timed X-Factor. Dante ends the attack by saying jackpot, which is more or less his catchphrase, usually reserved for awesome moments near the end of DMC games, DMC 1 and 3 in particular being standouts.
I'll try it your way for once. Remember what we used to say? Jackpot.
Doing a dual charge shot with Ebony and Ivory usually goes along with this in DMC, so it's cool to see that he does it at the end here. Dante's second hyper combo is Devil Trigger, done with a quarter circle back and 2 attacks. Like in the DMC games, Dante unleashes his demonic powers, powering him up for a short time and amplifying all of his characteristics. For one, just like how it passively heals in DMC, Dante slowly heals back all red life when in Devil Trigger here. Dante also receives a damage boost that stacks on top of X Factor and gains the ability to triple jump, air dash twice during a jump, or air dash and double jump in one jump. However, Dante doesn't build meter during this time. Dante can be tagged out, which will freeze the timer and give him Devil Trigger benefits during his assist, but because he's already transformed, you lose Devil Trigger as a safe DHC option. Most notably though, is that Dante gets 3 additional moves with Devil Trigger active. First is Air Raid. This is done by inputting a quarter circle back in special. This is a flight mode essentially, working exactly as the move does in DMC 3, where it could be done when Nevin was equipped after being bought. The move itself goes back to the very first DMC game, however, where it could be purchased for Dante's starting sword Alistair. He, Trish, and Lucia could also obtain it in Devil May Cry 2 as a part of the Devil Trigger states. Trish notably has Air Raid as a regular special move in Marvel 3. Next up is Thunderbolt, done with a quarter circle forward and special in the air. Dante sends out a fast, multi-hit bolt of thunder that can OTG. This is fast enough to combo into itself or knock down opponents a few times, and canceling a Thunderbolt into Air Raid and then quickly canceling in the Thunderbolt again is a viable strategy to completely melt health off of your opponent, especially in X Factor. This attack is more or less identical to its DMC 3 incarnation, also exclusive to Nevin in that game, but, like Air Raid, also originally comes from the first Devil May Cry game. Last but not least is Vortex, done with a Dragon Punch and the special button.
Yes.
Dante does a multi-hit charge attack that travels across the screen. The move has a decent bit of invulnerability after the initial startup frames, and makes for a good way for Dante to disengage with the opponent and run away to the other side of the screen if stalling for time. Just like the other Devil Trigger moves, it's modeled after its DMC3 variant, but it's been around since DMC1. It should be noted that Dante has a different Devil Trigger design in every game, though his DMC3 design is probably the most recognizable, partly due to DMC3's popularity, and his DMC3 design being in the Versus games. As it happens though, this specific design's creation also came about as part of a separate crossover. Dante appeared as a guest boss and recruitable party member in Shin Megami Tensei 3 on the PlayStation 2, being designed primarily after his DMC2 incarnation, the most recent DMC entry at the time. It even carried over his weird Two-Face-esque penchant for coin flipping from DMC2. In exchange for Capcom lending Dante the Atlas for this crossover, series artist Kazuma Kaneko designed the Devil Trigger forms for both Dante and Virgil in Devil May Cry 3. Anytime those specific Devil Trigger forms are used in a game, you'll likely see Kaneko credited for them, like in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition's title screens, or even Marvel 3's credit sequence. With Dante being so popular, he's shown up in a lot more crossovers, but we'll get to those later. Dante's level 3 is Devil Must Die, done with a Dragon Punch and 2 attacks.
And that's level maximum! Spin it! Here's the finale!
Dante initiates a series of back and forth stingers, finishing with a final one that blows the opponent to the other side of the screen. If you're fast enough, and this wasn't the end to a hilariously long combo, Dante can dash up and combo off of this with Cold Shower or another OTG move like Volcano. The move's name is likely a reference to Dante Must Die, a difficulty mode from the DMC series that usually represents the game's biggest challenge, appearing in every game in the series. Even the reboot, which, well, we'll touch on that later. Dante's first assist is Jam Session.
Come on! Great!
Jam Session is honestly one of the biggest reasons to use Dante. It's one of the most ubiquitous assists in general play aside from hidden missiles, and if not for that assist, Jam Session would probably be the best one hands down. It hits multiple times, has a long duration, has literal infinite vertical reach, something even hidden missiles can't claim, and can be comboed off of reliably. The best part is that Dante's hurtbox during this is thankfully shielded by the move's hitbox itself, so very few things outside of a well-timed hyper combo is gonna hit him out of this. Dante's second assist is Crystal.
Get you later. Come on! Get you later.
Dante's third assist is Weasel Shot.
Get you later. Come on! Get you later. Yes!
Here are Dante's colors. Color 3 is confirmed by Capcom to be an original color scheme. That said, and I'm sure this is just massive cope on my part, but the white long coat, the light blue hair, and the big ass sword all on a character that can transform into a more powerful form kinda brings to mind the Breath of Fire 3 incarnation of Ryu. I miss Breath of Fire. Color 5 is a shout out to Marvel's Frightful 4. Trish and Taskmaster also have alternate costumes referencing this group. Color 6 is an original color scheme, probably meant to evoke Virgil. All 3 DMC characters in the game have a color referencing at least one other playable DMC character on the roster. Dante's alternate costume is the legendary Dark Knight himself, Sparta. Sparta has never been seen or interacted with directly in the DMC series proper, being a posthumous character and all, but Dante's received costumes meant to look like him a couple times, most notably in DMC 3 and DMC 1. In both games, using this costume would uniquely make it so that the shadow that the character model has is Sparta's true form instead of his human-esque form. Sparta's true form would also manifest during the Devil Trigger state as well. This is actually replicated in Marvel 3 too, which is a neat touch. Also a neat touch is Dante's sword being changed to Force Edge. This was the sword Sparta originally used and was the dormant form of the sword that bears Sparta's own name. This one is used in DMC 1 by Dante and by Virgil in all of his playable appearances, Marvel 3 included. Dante was one of 6 characters to also receive an alternate costume in the vanilla release of Marvel 3, alongside Ryu, Chris, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. Before we move on to Dante's character interactions, I do want to note that while Dante's moveset and design here are modeled after Devil May Cry 3, the first canonical entry in the series, Dante interacts with and is familiar with characters from later in his personal timeline, like Trish, and characters he met in the later incarnation timeline-wise, like Viewtiful Joe. It's probably because having these characters is better than not having them for the sake of consistency, which doesn't really mean much in a non-canon crossover anyway. But I just wanted to mention that since I know one of y'all would if I didn't.
I'm not gonna pull my punches.
I shall strike it down tonight.
Get the hell out of my face. Don't think I'm gonna go easy.
I'll try not to leave visible marks.
Really, Trish? Is that the best you can do? What a touching reunion. Right, brother?
Sorry I was late to the party.
Oh, this is what they call a heartwarming family reunion, eh?
Come on, get up. You can do better than that.
Come on, get up. You can do better than that.
It's all right, Joe. Be cool.
It's stylish versus beautiful. Okay then.
Stylish and beautiful. Come, I never meet any nice girls.
I hope we can have some fun.
Sleep it off, baby.
Here are Dante's endings in both Vanilla and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Before we move on to Marvel Infinite, I want to go over some of Dante's other appearances in crossover games. Dante being such a popular character, it makes sense that he'd make it to a bunch of crossovers. I mean, look at him. Wouldn't you want him in your game too? Let's start with Capcom stuff first. Dante, like a lot of other Capcom characters, has shown up in Tekken, initially based off of his Devil May Cry 4 incarnation, but he eventually got cards based off of his Devil May Cry 5 design as well. While Dante himself doesn't appear in Monster Hunter World, there is a quest that rewards you with armor that essentially recreates his DMC1 design, even being able to craft a Force Edge replica as a charge blade. To craft it, you have to use red orbs based off the currency of the same name in Devil May Cry, which drop as a quest reward during the event quest that unlocks him. He also has a pretty memorable cameo in Jetta's Capcom Fighting Evolution ending, and as noted in Jetta's video, kinda kickstarts a rivalry between the two in crossover games. That said, the most notable Capcom related cameo outside of the Versus games themselves is Dante's inclusion as an exclusive playable character in the PlayStation 2 port of the first Viewtiful Joe game. Here, the game plays out with Dante in Joe's place and Trish is the damsel in Sylvia's stead. Makes the opening of the game a little awkward considering everything going on with Trish and Dante in DMC proper, but I get it. They probably weren't trying to reanimate that whole scene to change the context. Dante notably attacks with his sword Alistair and Ebony and Ivory instead of standard punches and kicks, at least when he's suited up. He even uses air hike as his double jump, complete with the glyph. It should be noted that the Viewtiful Joe games also feature a rival named Alistair that essentially functions as one big Devil May Cry reference, even using moves from the DMC games themselves. When playing as Dante in the first game, this gets contextualized further as Alistair being the very spirit of the sword from Devil May Cry, and he's angry about being largely forgotten by Dante. Dante shows up again in the party fighter Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble, once again being exclusive to PlayStation platforms, in this case the PSP version. Outside of Capcom games though, well, that's where things get a little more interesting. We've already touched on Shin Megami Tensei 3, but as it so happens, Dante would appear in some other RPGs, namely Project Cross Zone, a strategy RPG mashing together Sega, Capcom, and Namco properties. Dante in this game is based off of his DMC1 incarnation, and in the first game teams up with Dimitri from the Darkstalkers series. He again runs into Jetta here multiple times as well. The sequel is where things get really interesting though. This time around, when Dante is first introduced, it appears to be taking place during the events of DMC1 for him, with him on Malay Island just meeting Neuroangelo for the first time. He ends up running into all of the other protagonists, and some more people come on the scene, like Unknown, who understandably has Jin and Kazuya acting all weird, and Dante muses that despite all of the crazy stuff happening around him, it takes something big to shock him at this point. Then a time-displaced Virgil, quite literally a day removed from the ending of DMC3, shows up, much to Dante's surprise. Did I mention Neuroangelo was watching all of this play out as well? He ends up pairing with Dante for the rest of the game, leading to some pretty cool moments. Dante was already in one Smash Bros.-esque fighter with Red Hot Rumble, but he didn't make the cut for the real thing, instead having a Mii fighter costume based off of him in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's not to say he didn't show up in another Smash-esque fighter though, but that game was the somewhat ill-fated PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. I actually have a hell of a soft spot for this game, but if it being considered Smash Bros. At home wasn't it being set up to fail, his design in the game being based off of the Devil May Cry reboot was. I'll touch on the reboot a bit later, but I do genuinely think he's a fun character to play as in Battle Royale at the least, for whatever that's worth. We'll be touching on the reboot version of Dante in the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite section, which, hey, speaking of, Dante returns in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and yeah, we gotta talk about a few things. First, just what the hell, man? Yeah, game development is a multifaceted beast, with things like asset creation usually being outsourced to different studios, so there might be some disparities in the quality of work, but holy hell, pre-patch Dante just looks wrong. They thankfully fixed his face in time for the game's launch, but goddamn. Second, Dante's theme in this has got to be the most hilarious remix of Devils Never Cry on the face of the earth. Just give it a listen. I kind of understand distorting the voices to make things sound more demonic, but it just makes it sound like it was recorded while submerged in the middle of a lake or something. Third, Dante is really, really good. Prior to the December 2017 balance patch for the game, Dante was inarguably one of the game's best characters. After said patch, Dante went from being a top 3 character to being a top 3 character. Dante in Infinite is really, really good. Like, hilariously so. Dante has some of the most obnoxiously privileged buttons in the game. Think vanilla Marvel 3 Dante, but somehow better. Y'all ever read those choose your own adventure books as kids growing up? Dante is basically the fighting game personification of that idea. So much of his kit links into other parts that you can kinda just freestyle with him. Between all of his multi-hit moves, his projectiles, and everything with $1 million, Dante has a ton of reliable ways to lock the opponent down. A very valuable trait to have in a game with active switch like Infinite. This makes Dante, yet again, the game's premier support character, though this time he's arguably just as menacing on point. Honestly, the only reason he's not the undisputed best character in the game is because Zero exists and has arguably better frame data. I don't want to come off as if I'm complaining here, by the way. I think Dante in this game is fun as all hell, and in some ways I think I actually prefer him here compared to Marvel 3, at least mechanically. Having so much more combo freedom within his moveset is such a cool way to channel the freeform combat of the Devil May Cry series through a fighting game. He also has some storyline relevance in Infinite, again facing down Jeddah. Specifically, Dante is the only one that confronts him to claim the Soul Stone, which actually ends up being one of the few highlights of story mode. With the addition of proper kick buttons added to the control scheme, Dante's normals are made so that his punches are melee attacks with Rebellion, and his kicks use either Ebony and Ivory or a shotgun. The vast majority of Dante's kit is intact for Marvel 3, give or take a move or two, but because the inputs for most have been changed, we'll need to cover all of them. Raise the Flag is done with forward and light punch. This was Dante's standing medium in Marvel 3. The aerial version of this is Reverse Edge, done in the air with the same input. This used to be Dante's jumping medium. Stinger is fairly similar to Marvel 3, done with forward and heavy punch.
Get back!
As with Stinger, Million Stab is performed similarly to Marvel 3 by mashing heavy punch.
Good. Good.
Unlike Marvel 3, however, Million Stab startup can be cancelled into different moves with the press of a button, so no build cancels are needed. First is Air Trick, which can be cancelled into with light punch. Next is Drive, which can be cancelled into with light kick. Volcano can also be cancelled into by pressing heavy kick. During any point when performing Volcano, you can also cancel in the Beehive by pressing heavy punch. Do note that some of these attacks have alternate inputs as well. We'll hit the relevant ones later. Next is Clay Pigeon, done with forward and heavy kick. Helmbreaker is predictably done with down and heavy punch in the air. Rainstorm is done with down and heavy kick in the air. Scattershot is now done with a quarter circle forward motion and punch, though you can still mash for extra hits like in Marvel 3. Run and Gun also allows Dante to move around for the duration of Scattershot in a single direction. Prop Shredder is performed similarly to in Marvel 3 by tapping heavy punch during Scattershot. Like in Marvel 3, Prop Shredder can be super jump cancelled by performing the move of your choice with a Tiger Knee motion, like Acid Rain. Crystal is Dante's first special move here, done with a quarter circle forward and heavy punch. Revolver's been moved to tapping heavy punch a second time during Crystal's startup. Million Carats is done by tapping heavy punch twice during Crystal's startup. Multi-lock is done with a quarter circle forward and light kick.
You're in my sights!
As always, Dante can charge the move and move around while doing so. Acid Rain is now done with a quarter circle forward and heavy kick. No double tapping buttons necessary.
Mark it up! Good! Incoming! Good!
Air Trick has a dedicated input aside from the aforementioned million stab cancel, becoming a quarter circle back and light punch motion.
This way! This way!
Jetstream is done with a quarter circle back and heavy punch. There's a few moves Dante can branch out into during Jetstream's duration as well. First is Crazy Dance, done with light punch at any point during Jetstream.
Super! Down and out! Stick around! Later! Super!
This is thankfully trivial to pull off in Infinite compared to Marvel 3, where the window to cancel into it from the requisite moves was pretty small. This move is a pretty important part of Dante's kit. Not just because of how easily it can be comboed into and out of, but because of the massive corner carry this move brings, thanks to how the screen orients itself during this move. Pressing heavy punch initiates Twister.
Let's speed things up!
Pressing heavy punch during Twister initiates another follow-up, Tempest.
Let's go ashes to ashes, dust to dust! Super! Let's go ashes to ashes, dust to dust! Super!
Reverb Shock has a significant input change, being made a down-down light punch motion. Jam Sessions also had a major change, going from a Dragon Punch motion in Marvel 3 to being a heavy punch extension for Reverb Shock, replacing Fireworks. By the way, Fireworks is just a regular-ass heavy kick normal now. Yeah. Trending in line with Reverb Shock, Volcano's proper motion is down, down, and heavy punch.
Take that!
As mentioned before, pressing heavy punch again at any point during Volcano will result in Beehive.
You're grounded! You're grounded! Great!
Dante still retains the hammer, done with a quarter circle forward and light punch in the air.
Get there! Get there!
Skydance is done very similarly to Marvel 3, done with a quarter circle forward and heavy punch in the air.
Super!
Airplay is done with a quarter circle forward and light kick in the air. As always, it can be charged. Killer Bee is performed with a quarter circle forward and heavy kick in the air. It still causes a ground bounce that can be comboed off of, but the timing is a little tighter than in Marvel 3. Dante still has Bold Move as well, done by pressing both kick buttons. While it can still be used to jump cancel things that couldn't be done normally, a lot of Dante's old Bold cancel routes were made super jump cancelable instead without the use of Bold Move, but it still has some use, particularly with block strings. $1 Million is pretty much like in Marvel 3, done with a quarter circle forward and 2 punches.
Turn it, man! Move your feet! And bam!
If you do this and it's blocked, thanks to Active Switch, you can now make it safe by tagging your partner in. Even better, you can start attempting mix-ups from there with your partner too. It's one of the best supers in the game for overall team synergy as it does pretty much everything. It's full screen and travels across the screen relatively fast, it locks the opponent down, and allows for some tricky stuff even if it's blocked. Devil Trigger is done with a down, down, and double kick motion. Devil Trigger works pretty similar to Marvel 3 here, giving a speed, mobility, and power boost along with additional moves. Thunderbolt is now done with a quarter circle back and light kick. Vortex is now also done with a quarter circle back and heavy kick. Air raid is done with the quarter circle back and both kicks. Dante's level 3 is just like in Marvel 3, Devil Must Die, now done with a quarter circle forward and 2 kicks instead of a dragon punch motion.
Maximum! Time goes to hurt! Rest in peace! And that's how you do it!
Here are all of Dante's colors. Dante's alternate costume in Marvel Infinite is his design from the series reboot DMC Devil May Cry. In this continuity, Dante is a Nephilim, a child of an angel and demon, and kinda just aimlessly drifts around. He ends up reuniting with his long-lost twin Virgil, who's working to overthrow the demon lord Mundus, who here poses as a corrupt business overlord. They manage to successfully end his rule, only for Virgil to decide that now they should take their place to rule over humanity. This of course leads to one final conflict between the brothers, Dante emerging victorious. The game was developed by Ninja Theory with supervision from Capcom, and to say the game was controversial would be one hell of an understatement. The funny thing about this costume is that it arguably fits into the aesthetic of Infinite better than regular Dante does. Even his face looks like it was made with this game in mind. Another neat nod comes in the form of using Devil Trigger in this costume. Dante's hair will turn white and his jacket bright red, just as it does in DMC. Dante's final color here might also be a shout out to his Devil Trigger design as well. Here are all of Dante's character interactions.
You're gonna need more than a shield to take me.
Avengers assemble!
Not getting paid for this. You're a freebie. You're gonna tell me everything about my dad.
I assure you, I won't betray you. At least here.
All the gods I meet are phonies. How about you?
Do not steal my opportunity to fight. We shall fairly take turns in battle.
How come I never meet any nice girls?
Let's show them real power.
I'm the super to your hero.
Introducing the Web Warriors! Still gotta work on that name.
I see you're wild and raise you some crazy.
Do you want to see the power of Nova Prime?
Sorry, partner. Tonight, it's ladies last.
Get the hell off me!
I've seen a lot of evil plans before, but I've never seen any of them succeed.
Why try to fight us? We who are God!
Enough souls, and they say to put you down!
Do you think you can defeat us? Dante!
Huh? I'm working with you?
Dante!
Demon Hunter for hire. Don't worry, I'll give you the mayor's discount.
Dante!
Hey there.
If I had to describe Dante's implementation in the Versus games in one word, it'd be complete. I don't think there's a single character on the roster in these games outside of Phoenix Wright, Frank West, and maybe Zero to get this level of care not just into a moveset, but in how they function as well. Dante really does kind of capture the freedom of a character action game and molds it into a fighting game framework pretty much flawlessly. Dante and the Devil May Cry games are still as popular as ever. Devil May Cry 5, the most recent game in the series, went on to become the highest selling entry in the series by a pretty significant margin, despite the 11-year gap between it and Devil May Cry 4's initial release. In the recent character and game polls Capcom's run on their anniversary website, both Dante and Devil May Cry 5 won the top spot for most popular character and game respectively, which is saying a lot considering its competition is made up of juggernauts like Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. Also, Breath of Fire 3 made the top 10 as well, so there's at least 5,000 other people out there with good taste. With Itsuno having left Capcom to head up his own studio elsewhere, the series' fate seems uncertain at this point, but its massive popularity means it probably won't be long before we see our beloved wacky woohoo pizza man again. That's going to do it for this video. As always, thanks for watching, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time.